Okay guys, welcome back. Next step in testing vibration control and platforms. Gonna piggyback on what we did in the previous videos with the subwoofer. If you recall, we noticed that, again, the squash ball solution did isolate the sub from major vibrations floorborne, and it also helped to reduce the vibrations coming from the sub into the floor on at least the y-axis. Depending on how you orientate the device, it could be up, down, left, right, but at least on one axis we were seeing noticeably less vibrations going into the floor from a subwoofer playing a test tone. To piggyback on that, I discovered that the symmetry of the balls underneath the sub were not equal. So that might have been why we were getting improvement from one axis and not the other. So let me switch the view of this camera real quick. So now I've come up with a new solution. It's going to be symmetrical in terms of a 3-3-3 versus what we had before, which was uneven. I didn't have enough balls to make it a 9 set equal of 3 and 3. So let's see now if the equal symmetrical distribution of these balls will show any improvement on other axes. The other thing I wanted to point out is that a lot of people may contend that a suspended type vibration control is bad for a speaker because the woofer will move the speaker. But what we saw in the last demonstration was that this axis here, the z-axis, which is the up and down, did not change radically when we put it on a suspended stand. And this sub has 3 downfiring 8-inch woofers. That's the equivalent of about a 15-inch cone. So this is about as good an example as you can get of whether or not the z-axis up and down will be impacted by the actual driver moving. I think what we're seeing is whatever increase you might get from the initial down push or reflection of the initial driver is getting immediately sopped up by these squash balls, such that the ringing afterward is what's less and offsets whatever minor increase in movement is caused by a suspended vibration shelf. So again, not to get too technical, the bottom line is these didn't show any deterioration putting it on a sub while it's driving a signal. So the next thing to do is to test this. And I also got some of these sorbethane pucks that have a little cutout so I can put this on here. One of the hard things about setting a sub on here with just the balls is that unless you drop it on it perfectly, these will want to roll off and be unstable. So with these, I'm hoping that I can put the puck and then I can rest a shelf on top a lot easier. And plus you get the added benefit of another sorbethane. So we have basically now I have all vibropods below there to hold the squash ball, and then these pucks, which will serve as more of a flat surface. I could put the sub right on top of those, probably fine, but I'm going to try to use the actual shelf and see how that works. So let me put things on hold, pause while I put this below the sub and we test it out. This is the first time I'm doing it, so this is real time how it's going to work. Okay guys, the test signal, it's on the stand now. It's got a test signal going through, exactly the same signal we had before, and we're definitely seeing an improvement on all 3 axes. The only thing you see a slight up and down the z-axis, slight vibration, and then again that can be caused by the drivers moving, firing into the ground, creating vibrations within the cabinet. But as we saw without this stand, you were getting those vibrations as well, because it was ringing and not able to dissipate that energy any better. So we're actually seeing less up and down. We are seeing almost nothing on the y-axis and nothing on the x-axis. And that's with a subwoofer playing at a 70 dB tone through it, which would be probably most music. I mean, I guess I can bump up the tone and see if we get anything more. But again, I wanted to get approximation to real live music. What would happen on small vibrations? Can we make a difference? The unequivocal answer is we can make a difference. Let's take a look at the floor. So we're seeing on the floor huge improvement in terms of really nothing is showing, very minor blips on the z-axis of vibrations, putting this right next to a subwoofer playing a test tone. So, what does that tell us? It doesn't tell us anything in terms of does it improve the sound of the subwoofer, but you have to infer that anything that creates its purpose from vibrations would be unhelped by additional vibrations that weren't factored into the performance to begin with. So floorborne vibrations, the vibrations within the cabinet, limitations in the budget in terms of what they can do with the cabinet to brace it or to dissipate, and just pure physics. So using this stand as an aftermarket type add-on not only reduces to almost nothing the vibrations from the sub into the floor, which in turn would impact other pieces of equipment, it also is showing that within the sub itself, on top of the sub, it is helping to dissipate the vibrations that the sub is creating, which is pretty noteworthy. And given that the solution I did was super cheap and self-done, I would think it's something that you'd be willing to try as an audiophile, just to try it to see if you can notice an audible difference in your subwoofer performance or your system in general. Again, the whole purpose of being an audiophile is not so much to make an improvement that is night and day difference every time you do something, but it's also not to pretend that there's a difference when there's not. So the whole point of this series that I've been doing is say, let's prove that what vibration control is doing is actually working, actually reducing vibration control. Then you can make a subjective judgment from there how much of a difference it makes to the audible output of your system and whether it's worthwhile. I think for the cost involved in what I showed you, it definitely makes a difference on a measurable basis, and then you can judge for yourself in your own system whether it does anything from an audible perspective. Again, subscribe if you like it. Stay tuned. I got a lot more stuff to share with you guys down the road.